Welcome to the Coach V Show, powered by Island City, where the beach meets the streets. This is your Hollywood radio show for personal development, where tonight we are featuring from the 208, Mrs. Poway herself, Christina Ward of Christina and Company. We will be talking life, leadership, and business, as well as real estate. Yes, that's what we're doing. So stay tuned. It is on, because now a word from our sponsor.
This year, as we gather for the holidays, it's important to keep our Ohana safe and sound.
Vaccines have been approved for kids like us, ages 5 to 11.
Now we can join our older siblings, family, and friends in being safer.
Stay safe and enjoy the holidays by washing our hands, wearing our masks, and of course, get back!
Welcome to the Coach V Show, your Hollywood radio show for personal development with expert insights and interviews to help you, me, and we work to be our best and live our best life. Offering to you for your consideration success frameworks, behavioral models, and life lessons that, should you find value in it, that you deploy it all over your life, leadership, and business. Today, we have Christina Ward from the 208 in the house, and she is our featured guest. As a top producing agent in Boise, Idaho, Christina has excelled in helping buyers, sellers, and investors meet their goals. In 2013, she was named one of Real Trend's top 3 individual agents in Idaho. Christina has also received the Idaho Business Review 40 Under 40 Award in 2011. She was nominated for the Woman of the Year for the Idaho Business Review in 2021. She is currently the team leader of Christina and Company at Keller Williams Realty, Boise. The team is ranked in the top 20 teams in Idaho by Real Trends. Her team has closed over 1,500 transactions. 91% of her team sales comes from referral and repeat business. The C & Co team not only sells a lot of real estate, they also have earned hundreds of 5-star reviews from creating an exceptional client experience. As a former collegiate athlete, Christina carries a drive for winning, while also serving her clients and sharing what she learns with others in the industry. Christina has been ranked #1 in 2018, 2019, and in 2020 consecutively in her office for donations to KW Cares, a local and national nonprofit. Her passion is to help not only buyers and sellers, but also realtors, especially moms. She is a real estate teacher and coach, and loves being a small part of other people's success. In addition to her many professional endeavors, Christina lives in East End, Boise, and adores her husband and 2 kids. Christina Ward, welcome to the Coach V Show.
You're embarrassing me, Coach V. I love it.
Yeah.
And I love all those awards behind you. That's amazing.
Oh, I've just been blessed to be on amazing teams and have amazing relationships. And the trophy case is growing every quarter, but it is what it is. It's hard being successful, but it's better than the alternative. Christina, tell us your story. Where were you born, and where is the genesis point for Mrs. Christina Ward?
I'm so glad to be here, Coach V. Thank you for the honor. I noticed you interview more men than women, so I was very excited. That's why I reached out. I wanted a woman to be in your show, so thanks for the honor. I grew up in San Diego in Poway, North County, San Diego, California, and came to Boise, Idaho, where I met you when you were young football coach at Boise State,
Uh-huh.
just as enthusiastic and awesome as you are now, which is so cool to see. And came to Boise to play volleyball at Boise State and stayed, never went back to California. Sorry. What else do you want to know?
The Gem
Um,
State, huh? So let's
yeah.
talk about Poway, because I cruise
Oh,
by Poway every time I roll down to the Diego area, which isn't really California. San Diego is a different region of the world. It's just it's got its own climate. It's like it's on climate control down there. It is a destination city. But talk about Poway, elementary school, junior high, high school. How were those experiences in education and your athletic experiences? And what life lessons can you offer the world in terms of, hey, this is what I thought about education and growing up in Poway?
well, I'm the daughter of a teacher and coach. My dad is a teacher and coach, and an accountant. My mom is a math genius. And a sister to a little brother. Of course, I'm the oldest. You know, I just act like an oldest. I love myself. The oldest does, right?
All good.
My parents being both W-2 employees, it was interesting that I had an entrepreneurial spirit growing up. So my
Right.
first job was when I was 12. I decided to start a kids club in my neighborhood, where I realized the more parents I talked to and I got their kids to come to my house for some event, the more money I'd make and the more kids I would help. And it was creating value. So I just made flyers, went door knocking, invited the parents to bring the kids over for a 2-hour period where I'd babysit a group of kids doing arts and crafts, and they could go run errands during the summertime. And Kids Club grew to becoming an organization, becoming something that people depended on. We did bigger events. We even got written up in the newspaper. And I remember this interesting experience in leadership where the newspaper came, like the local Poway chieftain came to write about my business partner, Nicole's, and my business that we started. And I kind of felt like it was my idea. I don't even know if it was, but that's how I felt at the time.
Right.
And that if this is probably none of this is true, but I felt like it was my thing. And then they did this big article and Nicole's picture was on the front page of the paper. And Nicole was quoted in the paper.
Right.
And she's incredible. She was my business partner, right? But I felt
Right.
like, oh my gosh, I didn't get any credit. And it was a lesson in leadership that the bigger I grow and the more I give to people, the less credit I get. And that's actually a good thing. It's almost was embarrassing to hear you talk about my bio now, but like at that time, that was a little ego check and a good lesson. And I don't really get credit sometimes, and that's okay.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. It is an interesting dynamic, credit. And in that, you you got a kids club and you're running a business at 12. Both of your parents are numbers folks. How did sports become part of your history and your professional makeup and drive that you are today?
Well, they were both college athletes as well. They were
Okay.
swimmers at Chico State. They met in the swimming pool. And I am a very gifted swimmer, no doubt. I got the genes,
Uh-huh.
but I like to talk and I like people. So I was like, forget about this thing in the pool where your head's in the water. You can't even talk to anyone. I liked volleyball because I could socialize and I played some basketball, but I really liked volleyball because there's like a net in between where you don't have to be as physical. Like
Right, right, right,
it's a
right, right.
physical sport, but there's at least not as much contact. I liked that about volleyball. And I love the finesse and I love the people in volleyball. And so I got into volleyball in 6th grade. And
Okay.
I and that was an interest. My parents were never they were never forcing me to be a swimmer, even though they knew I was gifted in that. They always wanted to let me choose. They said the only thing that we care about is you start something and you finish it. Otherwise,
Mm.
do whatever you want, but don't quit. No quitting. When you commit to something, we're going to finish it to the end. And that was some really good lessons there, life lessons there. When I was in 8th grade, I started getting more into volleyball, and I made this winning team in San Diego, this like the rich girls club team,
Uh-huh.
and all the Rancho Santa Fe girls were on that team. And then I was like the girl from Poway that tried out, and I made it. And they said, you're number 10 of 10, like you barely made this team. And it was a traveling, like national traveling team. And my dad, for the first time, said, he held me back. He's like, I don't want you to play on that team. And he was trying to protect me, right? He was trying to get me to not burn out, to get into something, there's a lot of burnout in volleyball in San Diego, where they start the kids in like 5th grade. And then by the time they're super athletes, they never even make it to college because they're so tired of volleyball. So
Right.
his concern, he was protecting me around burnout and didn't want me to sit the bench and didn't want to pay all this money for me to sit the bench when they told me I was number 10. But my mom and I really wanted it. So we, of course,
Your
wanted
mom
to
and yeah.
There was a little bit of a battle, and we won the battle. And I sat the bench the entire season, traveled all over the country with this dream team, and I became a starter at the end. And then in the last tournament, Junior Olympics, I became a starter, probably because the rest of the girls were tired. I did get a lot better, but I earned the starting position. And then the next year made the varsity team at Poway High School, which is a program that typically cuts girls that play club volleyball. Like, that's how powerful that program has been, in a winning program for 30 years. And there's 100 girls that try out, and they cut 50, usually all playing year-round volleyball, and got to be on the varsity team. My sophomore year, we were 2nd in the country. That Poway High School team was 5 senior starters that went to UCLA, University of Colorado, University of Arizona, like all 5 senior starters went to top 25. And I really continued to play with girls that were, I don't think I was ever on a team where I was the best player on the team. I was always playing with the best of the best. And I think that high school team, we beat Misty May that year. We got to play against Misty May at our gym, which is an incredible experience. I almost stopped playing volleyball because she was such an amazing athlete. I wanted to watch her play. She was so good. But that team, I think, could have beat my Boise State volleyball team. Like, that team was rad, like magical rad. And here's the lesson from that team. There was 2 players that had a little fight over a boy. You know how that goes? And it wasn't a little fight, it was a big fight. Nobody ever heard about it because our vision was on winning. They kept it off, away. I found out about it after the fact, after we won state, and it was this incredible, it beat all these teams we were supposed to beat. I found out this drama later. They kept it to themselves and they focused on the vision. Those girls taught me a lot. That was amazing. You wouldn't believe what happened, but it's not too much to tell on this show. It was about a boy.
Yeah. So I guess I finally have a show that my daughter can watch. It's interesting because I am so male connected, and that my network just recently blossomed into having really high level corporate, like you just bounced into my life all of a sudden, earlier this year. And then my director of sales and marketing for my company, Melanie Tice, is out of Hawaii, and she's an executive in my world, as well as some of my other support coaches worldwide. But it is something that you brought to my attention, where I would just put out invites to 4 other females that are doing some amazing things. And that's great that you even accepted. You offered to be on the show, then I invited you. So I was like, hey, would you like to be on the show?
That's another lesson. And people say, how did I become successful? I was like, I just ask for it. Because what's the worst thing someone can say is no. And no doesn't hurt that bad. Like, it hurts when you, in the beginning, and then you realize it's not about you. And then it's like, oh, okay, like, no for now. Okay, maybe later. No big deal.
Right. And I specifically bring up my daughter because she's a pretty good swimmer. And shout out to all the swimmers out there and the swim parents that, for those youth sports parents that complain about 2 practices a week, try 5 practices a week, and then all day meets or half day meets on Saturday. It's really a challenging deal. And my daughter is very similar. As you're talking, she's like, oh my gosh, she loves swim, but she loves her friends at swim. Good. And she started watching some Japanese I guess youth cartoons that are not just like kids cartoons, and they all play volleyball on there. And she goes, "Hey, I like to try volleyball." She made her
Yeah.
junior high team.
Yeah.
There was like 70 something kids, and because of COVID, it was the first time there were 8th and 7th graders on campus at this middle
Nice.
school, right? And then so she made that team, and then she's like, I'm like, "Hey, I see this thing for travel volleyball. Let's go to these clinics." And then she made the volleyball team, and then I got the bill.
Oh.
She made the travel volleyball team, and I was like, "Oh, congratulations to me." The uniforms are
Oh,
$700. The sweats is like, okay, this is
yeah.
real now. I was like, "You got reps before, but you better get reps now." So this is going to be cool. Let's talk some swim lessons for my daughter and those folks. Like, why practice 5 times a week? I know why, because of the variation in different functions and different events. Takes different focus and preparation within those strokes. But why? How did swim help you? I mean, the multitude of practices and hours spent in a pool. And what are your thoughts on that and the life lessons you learned, Christina?
Well, I'm pretty sure my parents did double days in college. I don't know if that exists anymore, but my dad
Right,
was at
right.
he was at 3% body fat trying to keep up with the amount of, I mean, he's still a tall, both my parents are tall and lean. Like I'm blessed like genetically from them.
Yep.
And but he couldn't keep up with 6 hours a day of swim plus eating. So he ate 10,000 calories a day, similar to Michael Phelps,
Yeah,
to
yeah.
just stay at that 3%, which is insane. Um, so yeah, that sport is, and when I played the sport, I did the early morning practices.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I'd
yeah, yeah.
go to school with like the lines in my forehead and the goggle.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
embarrassing. And then I go to volleyball in the afternoon. What I realized is those two sports, it's like a slow twitch muscle and a fast twitch muscle.
Yep.
So they weren't working for each other. I mean, I don't regret doing either one of them, but there was a point where I had to choose one. Unfortunately, like
Mm-hmm.
basketball, volleyball works better together than volleyball swimming did. So
Right.
that's why I let it go. But my parents did a lot of hours and a lot of reps. And what's crazy is I was like on the junior varsity team for swimming, and I was a quarter of a second or an eighth of a second away from being on the varsity team. Like swimming is such a like little teeny change sport. And where my weakness was is I had the ability to like I have a strong kick, and I'm
Yep.
like it's like a motorboat like
Yep.
speed. But because I was swimming against girls that played club forever in high school, I was winning on the the dive off the board. I was losing because they were all better at the dive. They did that over and over and over again, perfected it. I didn't. I was entrepreneurial in it. And then I'd swim and I'd beat them all. And then we do the flip turn and they'd be beating me again because
Yeah,
they did
yeah.
that more than I did. And then I'd swim again and almost maybe barely beat them because I was just a better swimmer, but I wasn't good at the fundamentals of it. And I think that's probably why, I don't know what your daughter's coaches say, but it's a sport where the little teeny changes, teeny tiny changes could make you go from a high school player to a college player to an
Yeah.
Olympian. And just teeny tiny seconds or milliseconds or make you from the elite to the average. It's crazy. What have you
Yeah,
learned
no
from it?
doubt. Oh, no doubt, no doubt. And then how much, first off at like 6, 7, 8, you're just swimming the width of the pool over once. And then you get into the age group where you're going, twice and on the backstroke or the breast, and then but on free, now you're going 4 times, right? And then you
Yeah.
go from the sides of the pool to the length of the pool, like the Olympic size, right? And
Oh yeah.
we have an amazing aquatic center here in my town of the EG, Elk Grove, California. And it's just amazing the amount of hours it really takes to be that good. My daughter's never done the fall, winter, and the spring, summer, but we did it this year just to see how much more progress it would help her being in the pool. But then she jumped on the volleyball, and it was really intriguing because she loves it, because she gets to talk to her friends, because she's a talker like you. Like, when you said that, I really did think of my daughter. What
And
about
she
the
can,
dimensions and all that? Because the physical dimensions, like Michael Phelps, he's got the juice and he's very competitive, got the
yeah.
basic fundamentals. He's a great swimmer, right? But he has some tangible height, weight, speed, all that stuff, right? For you too, you're quite tall for a gal. Talk about your dimensions and how it helped you in volleyball and both in swim.
I think, yeah, that's just like a lucky thing to be blessed being
Yeah,
like being a daughter of athletes. And I married an athlete. Like
right.
actually my husband is a much better athlete than my parents and me. Like he's very, very gifted
Uh-huh.
athlete. It's natural, just natural ability. And so I think that was a little bit lucky. And then also just being in the mindset of like we're a family that moves, we're a family that plays,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like I know not every family gets that, and that you're a family that starts something and finishes something. So I got to play sports and be involved, which I think led me to being a better athlete. But I'm 6'1"
Yeah.
and then have like those broader shoulders that work good for volleyball and swimming.
Yep.
And but 6'1" now for Division 1, that's like so average. Like it's crazy. Like Division 1
Mhm.
volleyball, 6 foot. I just saw the Boise. Did you know the Boise State volleyball team's going to the tournament, the
That's
NCAA
awesome.
tournament?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I just like stood near those girls and I like looked at. They're big, they're strong. It's just awesome what these female athletes are becoming. So cool.
Yeah. So do you remember the name Rebecca Sony? So Rebecca was like she was, I think it was in the breaststroke. At 5'9", she was the world record holder and a gold medalist, in swim. And I got a chance to connect with her, and we did a couple ventures a few years back. But man, the girls that are swimming in my daughter's age group at 7th grade at 12 years old, 11, 12-year-old group, they're like 6 foot. And
Wow.
and even the girls that are playing volleyball with her, and my daughter's just around 5'7", so she's going to sprout some more, we're hoping. Either way, I think she's going to be really good. But I just think that the dimensions of a person and the height, weight, speed does help. But ultimately, and would you agree, I guess is my question, but ultimately it comes down to your preparation, your mindset, and then when you're on the court at game time, because people are like, well, it's how you practice. Yes, it's how you practice, but really it's the games that are the
Yeah.
real practice,
Yeah.
right? And and that's the practice for the playoffs. And then for an opportunity just to, people are like, oh, the playoffs are hard. No, you just earned another level of struggle when you get in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Your whole thoughts on that? Yes, dimensions, height, weight, speed, all of that help. But you better make sure you prepare and make sure that when the lights are on, that you use that as just another opportunity to progress. Your thoughts on that, Christina?
Well, I love it when I see like soccer players love playing with the ball. Like you see them
Yeah,
like
yeah.
playing by themselves with the ball. And I had a coach, I think I met her in 8th grade at that same Coast Volleyball Club. She was the director of the club, where she taught us to juggle the volleyball like a
Mm-hmm.
soccer ball. And she's like, morning, night, evening, volleyball, play with the volleyball. The more you play with the volleyball, the better player you're going to become. And so I learned to like juggle a little bit like soccer player, but also like adding in like, you're just touching the volleyball more than anyone else. And then I was introduced to private lessons. And this is a very privileged experience to grow up with a family that could afford club volleyball, rich girl club volleyball, not just regular club
Yeah,
volleyball,
not
but
just
like
regular, not just us
the
$2,000
best.
a season parents, but travel elite.
Travel all over the country.
Yeah,
Like it revolved our whole life. Like I know they made we were pretty middle class, but they made a lot of sacrifices to make that happen and knew the importance of it,
right.
and got lucky with the scholarship, but they weren't expecting that. But that was a goal of mine. So when I told my coaches at the club, I want to go to play Division 1 volleyball, they, being that I wasn't the number one player on any of these teams, I was always playing up. They said, you've got the dimensions, you've got pretty close to the skill, but you're a little bit on the line, like maybe we should go Division 2, or
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
we should, like that kind of player. Like, do you want to be like the winningest in Division 2 or just barely make it to Division 1? And I said, I want to go Division 1 and I want a full scholarship. That's my goal. So we got into private coaching, and it was insane the amount of reps that I got one-on-one with, and he was a community college coach locally, really good coach. And he would adjust my shoulders, teeny, tiny adjustments. And we would do rep after rep. And I became a much better volleyball player after the private coaching. And it was also, like we were talking about with swimming, very small adjustments that made my game much better, so that I got multiple offers. Not very many top 25 offers, but I got multiple Division I offers.
That's awesome. In that, let's talk about high school. And you've already mentioned some of the more memorable times in general. What are some specific, Poway High School, man? I grew up here in California. I know about Poway High School volleyball, right? And how that's so heavily recruited by all the top volleyball schools out there. So talk about some of your memorable times and what you've learned in those experiences.
Well, first, it made me, when I think of Poway High School, I think of my friends that I'm still friends with. And we're all turning 40 next year, which is fascinating. That's how we've been friends since mostly 6th grade, but definitely all high school. And we still travel together every year, minus the last couple of years. And we're all become mothers together and professionals together. It's been really, and not a lot of those gals were basketball and softball players, not all volleyball players, but my bestest friends are from Poway High School. Mm-hmm. And another memory that came to mind was my coach. And she was, her name's Lisa Reese. She's really well known in the volleyball world. She would have veins that popped out of her neck.
Right.
Would get like intense with us, like super scary lady. And I guess she'd calmed down since she became a mother. She was even crazier before I got to her.
She was even crazier, the legends say, right?
and she didn't even have, sometimes we were like, she doesn't even make sense. Like, we are also well coached by our club organizations, by like pro beach volleyball players and like these awesome coaches from club. And we got to Lisa, and it didn't even make sense. Like, sometimes we would have all of our plays written up and down our arms. Like every rotation, we'd be playing in different spots, and it was not normal. Nothing was normal about playing for Lisa Reese. On my senior year, she got her 1,000th win, and she had not even gotten to 100 losses. Like the lady that we said, doesn't make sense, it is insane or crazy, whatever. Like, and I say that lovingly because she was the best coach I ever had. Now that I look back, she was a winner. Like, she figured it out, and she figured out how to. At one time we lost a game to Rancho Bernardo, which we weren't supposed to lose. No, when we won. We never lost to them. Sorry. We went to 5.
Right.
We went to 5 with them. We should have gone only to 3, in her opinion. So we were in our jerseys after winning a game. We were doing suicide runs in front of the fans because she was so mad at how bad we won that game or something like that. And she was intense, and she was funny, and she was loving. Like, she was, as much as she yelled and got mad at us, she loved us. Like, she just was best coach I ever had, most winning coach I've ever had too.
That's awesome. Talk about your recruiting experience and what you learned through that, right? Especially that you had the audacity to reach for a level that your trusted coaches and club were saying that maybe you should shoot lower. How was that?
It was great. I did my 5 like paid NCAA recruiting trip thing, and I had my heart set on some other universities that I didn't end up going to. So it was a fascinating experience of Colorado State. Colorado State was top. There was actually 2 top 25 schools that were considering me, and Colorado State said, you're a number 3 middle blocker, and if we get the other 2, we're not going to give you the spot. And I loved that. I was like, that's so cool that they were just told me, And Boise State, really, they wanted me the most. So it was like a pity trip almost. I was like, well, I'll just go on the trip to Boise because the coaches are so nice.
Right.
I'm not going to Idaho. I'm not, no way. And then, like, one player I played with committed at one of the schools that I didn't really want to play with her anymore after playing with her since like 7th grade. So that one was out. And then Colorado State was out because they got their 2 girls, and then I went to Utah State, and I think they thought I was a certain religion, and so then there was no offer there, which was it's happening for you, not to wait. Yeah, it's happening for you, not to you. But that
Yeah,
felt
yeah.
like major rejection. And then I was like going on my trip to Boise State, and I fly into the city of trees, and I'm like, whoa, this place is so beautiful. And I got to meet the volleyball team and the football team and the soccer team and see the beautiful river that runs through the city. And it was my standards were so low for them, and everything was like a surprise. And it was an easy, even with the kind of the no's I got before that, it seems like it was all meant to be. Like, it was incredible how it all worked out. I'm grateful I went on that trip.
So let's talk about memories of your collegiate career. Let's start with your most memorable first impressions of Boise State University as a Poway SoCal gal.
Well, so that's crazy you said that, because I didn't even think I'd bring her up. But my first memory at Boise State was meeting Shara Summer, who is our setter, who has passed away in a car accident. So that's why I got sad, because I just realized that was the first. Like, I showed up to campus, and she like was driving in a car, and she like slammed on the brakes, and she jumped out of the car and gave me a big hug, and she said, "I'm here for you. I'm going to be your friend. Tell me who you need to know or what you need to do to get set up in town." Like, she was like,
yeah,
my mama bear. So
yeah.
that was my first memory at Boise State, was meeting Shara.
And what about because now you're playing against Utah State, right? I mean, one of the top programs always are the Wahines out in UH, right? And talk about your memorable experience and the broadening. You play travel volleyball, and that's one thing, but now you're on a collegiate floor with some very good players. There's less of the things you could take advantage of than actual even high level rich girl travel volleyball, right? I mean, there's so many nuances and just little things that give an advantage, very similar to the technique you were just referring to. And so what was that like for you?
It was just the speed of the game that was so different.
Right.
It was so fast. And so I was recruited as a middle blocker, and I was a good middle blocker, good enough to get to college on being that position. And then they quickly realized I was too slow for that position, and they moved me to the outside and the right side, which is way more fun. And I had played a lot of beach volleyball in high school, so that was a natural change for me to go. Most middles have a hard time going to outside or right side, but I had a lot better like ball handling skills because of the doubles play that I got to play for a long time in high school. So I really enjoyed the outside right side positions, and they're easier positions. I mean, I hate to be like, an outside hitter will be offended by me saying this, but the setter and the middle blocker positions are harder positions in my opinion.
Right. You got to twist around, and you got to find people. You got to have awareness. You got to have vision, passing skills, right?
And then the outside hitter just gets all the glory. And I'm like, stop being a little brat. Like, that's like such an easy job.
I am definitely learning and really subscribe as a fan. I do enjoy being inside the gym versus being all the outside. You know, we take like a whole truckload of stuff when we go to a swim meet, right?
Oh yeah.
And we're outside all day, and then soccer was outside. So this is really intriguing. So then now talk to us about graduating. So you come from a family that's start finish. You come to Boise State. You graduate. What did it feel like to start and finish that part of your life?
You feel kind of lost, right? Like when you're an athlete and that's what you
Real
know,
talk.
that's your job. To be an athlete, it's your job to work out, to be good at the sport. And so now it's like, now what? And so I drank a few extra beers and lost a few pounds of muscle, which was weird to drink beer and lose weight.
Yeah.
After like not being like, you stop being in a squat position for 3 hours a day, and like things change. And I met my husband around that graduation time. He's a University of Idaho Vandal fraternity brother. So that was fascinating because there was a big rivalry, Boise State, U of I at that time. Not as much anymore. and there was lots of transition. It was like, okay, now what? Like, you know, I love the NCAA commercial, like go pro in your career or something like that. Like,
Yeah,
what
yeah.
do they say? And so then it was figuring out, okay, what am I going to do? And my degree was health promotion, like health education, and a
Right.
huge passion for helping folks make behavior changes and live a healthy lifestyle. And then I soon realized, I don't know why I didn't realize this when I chose the degree, but there's not a lot of jobs. And if there are jobs, there's not a lot of security, because like Micron has a health education person, for example, but then they have to do budget cuts. It's the first person they cut, even though I
Right.
think it's most important. So I found a job. It was at Boise State, and it would be the health education person for all the student body.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh, rad. I, you know, teach people how to eat, make decisions in the cafeteria, blood drives, like, you know, running or walking groups. Like, this would be so fun. I'll organize it all. And the job required a master's degree and 5 years experience. And I said, well, I know people that are hiring for the position because it was within my degree. So I'm just going to go for it. 100 applicants, and they picked 4, and I got in the top 4. I don't know why. It was like, and then it was an all-day interview where you're to give like a presentation, like you have the job, right? And it got real. Like, what if I get this job? I don't even know what I'm doing. Like, it's major leadership. Like,
real talk. That's real talk.
Oh my God. And so I got scared, like scared of success. Like, it was just interesting. And they ended up hiring a qualified out-of-state person that had the degrees and had the experience. And they created a job for me. And they said, this is a junior position. It's part-time. So I went to my mentors at the time. Their names are Jim and Jennifer Mortgat.
Okay.
Jim used to be a coach at Boise State, tennis coach. He was before Patton.
Okay.
He's awesome. So I babysat.
Okay.
You got a new, oh my gosh, you should interview Jim for your show. He's a great tennis coach and a great like philosophy guy. He's awesome.
That'd be great.
Major mentor for me. So I went to this family that I babysat that happened to both be realtors. And I said, they made this job for me, and then I could work at Starbucks and work for you guys with your family and make it work. But then what? Like, is that like I move into that health education position, and is that my life? You know, like, is that all? And it just didn't seem like enough. I wanted something more, or something that's limitless.
Right.
And again, why did I not think like business or something else? But all these choices led to right where I am today, so it's fine. But they just listened, and I cried a bit. I was confused about what to do. And then Jim called me the next day, and usually Jen called me to babysit, so I was kind of scared when he called me. And he said, do you want to come in and interview to be our transaction coordinator on our real estate team? And I said, sure. And then I hung up and I Googled transaction coordinator, because who knows what transaction coordinator is? Like, I didn't.
Real talk. Yeah.
And so I went in and interviewed, and transaction coordinator is the detail person, administrative assistant from contract to close, all the details of the deal. So Jim and Jen would sell and find the buyers and sellers and write contracts. And I would take it to close with the title and escrow and the lenders and the inspectors and all the coordinating. And I'm not a good assistant. I'm not detail oriented. So that was interesting. But I do like to win and get things done. So that helps me to be detailed when I need to, but it's not a natural trait. But what I did see is their commission checks. And I was like, this is so egotistical, 22 years old. And I'm like, I'm doing all the work. They're making all the money.
Right.
And I'm sure there's young people saying that right now. And what I wish I told myself is, I get to work for 2 of the most amazing realtor people I've ever met in my life, and I'm getting paid to learn from the best. How lucky am I? But instead, I would say, I want those big checks, and I'm doing all the work. So then I became a realtor, and I realized it's not as easy as it looks.
As it looks, right?
Because when they handed me the file, I was like, oh, they just like went out in the weekend, showed a house and wrote a contract, easy peasy. I can do that. But it's the getting the buyer or getting the seller. You know this as a business person, coaching people, the lead generation part of real estate or any business. The leads is the hardest part. I just sold a house from someone, a referral from my physical therapist, and that took 10 years of getting injured and
Yeah.
talking about real estate. And then I finally get a deal.
Right.
And I had no idea that when I was getting those files, that it took them 10 years of relationships to get a deal.
Yeah.
And that was hard. And then the recession happened. So that's like a whole nother story.
Right
Lots
on.
of learning.
Right on. And then so now we're just at the point of the show. So welcome everybody to the Coach V Show, your show for personal development out of Hollywood, California, broadcasted out of Dash Radio Studios. Tonight, if you just tuned in, we are on with Christina Ward of Christina and Company. And Christina, talk to us about, so what are you doing now? And talk to us about a few things. So what are you doing now in your current projects? Let's just start there instead of doing an overview. Let's just go over it right there. What do you want the world to know about what you do now? What do you offer? How do we find you? Let's start there.
Okay, so I run a small real estate team in Boise, Idaho, sold 1,500 homes total. And every year we sell about 100 to 150 homes by referral. So it's all about relationship and the client experience. And I can't even believe sometimes the people that go out of their way to connect us with their family members or friends. The referrals are incredible. But the lessons learned, like you asked, is to stick with it. Because that recession was long and hard. And there was a lot of years where I made less than and now I became a millionaire in March 2020, which was fascinating. And a net worth, like a real millionaire, not a fake millionaire, like net worth.
Right. Not like that's real talk. Talk to him, Christina. Tell him. Yeah.
Like all that, like pretend money out there. And the way that we did it was through two things: owning business, like a real business with, I didn't sell 1,500 homes. My team sold 1,500 homes, and owning hard assets like residential or investment property real estate. And I really think those two ways are the easiest ways to become, not the easiest, the most profitable ways to become wealthy. We did not become wealthy from gambling in the stock market, which I'm sorry, I call it gambling because it does feel like that. It is
gambling, yes, very true. Real talk.
Became wealthy from owning business and owning real estate, and it was a long time coming, and it was also living way below our means. The recession taught us that. If it wasn't for the recession, even though that was really hard to live so month to month and so rice and beans, right? Like we just ate rice and beans. If it wasn't for that, we never bought the big fancy house on top of the hill. I still don't drive a luxury vehicle. Made a lot of sacrifices to get to the point of having freedom. And you could either like do it now or wait. And the waiting part is so hard for people. And I'm so glad that we waited because it set us up to really live a life of abundance and freedom.
Very good. So how do we find you, and how do people, because I have a lot of folks that listen in on the Dash Radio app, and then also folks that'll tune in on the YouTube channel, the podcast that launches tomorrow at 10 a.m. and then also on the Facebook Live, right? So how do people find you, and how, after they see just what an amazing person you are, because that's what I love to deal with. If I'm going to give my money and have somebody earn my money, it's going to be somebody within my network. So they're going to see you and they're going to go, man, how do I get a hold of Christina? How do we get a hold of you, Christina?
Okay, so on social, I'm Christina Ward on Instagram and Facebook. So CH with a CH and then MOOREWARD. And then ChristinaandCompany.com for our website.
Ward and ChristinaCompany.com. I got that part already. ChristinaCompany.com. And what are the projects that you're so excited about right now? What are the ventures? Can you share anything about what's coming on the horizon? Yeah. Or is this going to be just what you do is investment properties and selling real estate?
Yeah, so selling real estate has allowed so many opportunities for me, mostly the personal development journey and the growth
Mm-hmm.
there, especially with Keller Williams Realty. It's a coaching and consulting company disguised as a real estate brokerage, which is
Say that
incredible.
again, because I don't think a lot of people know that about Keller Williams, right? You and I do because we're in personal development. But to
Yeah.
say that again, Keller Williams is
Is a coaching and consulting company disguised as a real estate brokerage.
right.
And I know you can say that, right? You can say like,
Yep.
"Oh, I have integrity," but then you don't do it or whatever, like that the things that people say about their businesses. But I just spent 2 days with Gary Keller, like the founder of Keller Williams
Yep.
International, like 180,000 realtors work our company, and I got to hang with him in a small room, and he didn't even talk about selling real estate. He talked about living a life of purpose, about owning real estate and creating passive income. He wants us to be like happy and fulfilled and not just like working all the time.
That's right.
Because real estate is such an addictive, hardworking. It's you work on Christmas, you work on Sundays, you never know when you're always working. So he's really cares about our health. We spend a lot of time on health, peace, fulfillment, God, family, then business, and anyone's God, like just a like higher being. And we talked about being a steward of the world, not a steward of our
Mm.
family or our city. And he was talking about around the pandemic, and he's not like not a political guy. He's like a data guy, and he's like, we have a responsibility to the world, and as leaders, we need to show people how we can get through this and get on with the economy. He's an incredible leader,
Absolutely.
and to see like he would, if he was talking about production, that would be for him, right? He doesn't
Right.
care about the production. He cares about our life and our family, and him teaching us that. Look at, I'm saying it, it's a huge ripple effect to what he's able to. Oh,
Yeah. In
so
that, what is through all of that? What is Christina's message to the world?
I wrote down a couple of those. I did write down integrity, even though I think that's an annoying word, overused. But
Mm.
integrity to me is to do what you say you're going to do, like follow through. And so our team's motto is you tell them you're going to do it, you do it, and then you tell them you did it. And I know it sounds like silly, but it's makes a difference and makes people feel important.
Yeah.
And also the lesson learned from my story today is stick with it, because I should have stuck with it longer with Jim and Jennifer and been in more respect of what they created, although that was part of the path, but definitely sticking with it through the recession. A lot of people, I think, stop too soon before the magic because we're
Right.
usually on a runway, and then they stop right before that off, like right
Yeah.
before when it gets really hard.
Yeah.
And I was so lucky that we really pared back our expenses so we could make it through and really just paying for food and shelter and like surviving through the recession. Because if I wrote a resume to get a real job, like that's how close it was to getting out of real estate, and it would have totally changed our life forever. And then last, we don't succeed alone. The people taking credit for all that, there's like usually a higher being miracle in their life to help them succeed, and there's usually a team of people. Even
Yeah.
if we don't have a real team, there are people that help us get to. There's a lot of people that need credit for all of our successes. I'm so grateful for my people.
So start with number one, integrity, right? Go ahead. Just list them off as a summary, right? So you started off with number one being integrity. And what was number two?
With it,
Stick with it.
don't give up on the runway.
And then people, right?
And then we don't succeed alone. And I think like a subcategory to the runway is when we follow great models and systems, the runway can be shorter.
Yep.
And there's too many folks thinking they're going to like hit the jackpot from creating something from scratch. And that's great because sometimes we do, right? Like
Yep.
you're an inventor and you just get lucky. I've been more of a person that I just follow a model and system, a person usually, or a group, real estate group that's gone before me, and I just copy it to a T, and then I can customize it to myself later. But why not just copy the successful people? There's a
No,
shorter runway.
No, that is absolutely awesome. We got just about 15 minutes left, and now we're in the portion of the show. Welcome to the Coach V Show. We're here with Christina Ward, not a fake millionaire, like a real millionaire. I love when you said that because it's on your net, not on on just what the what do they call it in terms of the my house here? Because right, I think my house here was. I think we've tripled in price, not in your equity amount that you value yourself, right? In
Yeah,
terms of your liquid amount of,
not
I
real.
love that. That's real talk. I love that. And that's why I love former athletes too, because they come up here and they come on the show and they just tell it like, hey, this is how it is. You know, I'm not a fake millionaire, I'm a millionaire. In that, shout outs. Let's go shout outs. Who are Christina Ward's shout outs?
Ooh, okay. These are like mentors, people that have helped me along the way.
It's your show. I'm just a co-pilot. You're the
Oh my
feature. You could
gosh.
shout out whoever you want. Yeah.
Oh my God, this is so cool. Well, first of all, I probably need to give the person we haven't talked about who needs the most credit for all this is Lane Ward, my husband, that like University of Idaho boy vandal that I married all those years ago when we were little babies. And he's the one that when I was about to quit, like
Uh-huh.
the rule don't give up too soon, he said keep going. And he said, we got this. Like you are made for this. And without him, I wouldn't still be here today selling real estate with one of the top teams in the country. He always encourages me. Then I said, I want to be a coach, but I'm not ready yet. So I'm not going to be a coach until I get to this point. And he's like,
Yeah.
you're made for this. Like you can do it. Your schedule just opened up. Like, cause I used to stay home with Emma on Wednesday mornings. Emma was going to school. He's like, you have Wednesday mornings. No one's expecting you in the office. Like, what if you just coached the moms like I want to on Wednesday mornings? So now I coach 3 real estate moms on Wednesday mornings. It's my favorite day of the week. And Lane, I was going to talk myself out of it. I'm not ready yet. No, encourage me. And then I met you and you said you should write a book. And I was like, oh, no, I'm not going to write a book yet. Like I will do that someday.
Right.
And you were a huge impact on that decision. But then Lane was too. He's like, why don't you just go? I think I was already going to Austin for a little like conference. And he's like, why don't you just add on a few days and have some time alone? Like he encouraged, and then I stayed at this like spa place called Miraval, which was amazing. And I just like did yoga and wrote up my book and there was no guilt. So much mom guilt happens, right?
Mm,
Like,
mm.
like moms, we fought, or women in general, we fought for the right to do what men do. And we fought hard and it took too long, and we're also made to be mothers. Like we didn't lose that part. Like that's inside me to be a mother. So I can see how there's so much pull of that guilt, like moms at work wishing they're at home, moms at home wishing they're at work. We're doing 2 jobs. Men are catching up, becoming co-parents. I know you're a really good co-parent, Coach V, and my husband's a really good co-parent, but we've got work to do, right? Like,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
how to balance. It used to be simpler when my grandma was raising her family. She was at home, and my grandpa was a lawyer in LA, and it was simpler. It's not simple anymore. And
Real
and I
talk.
think that moms they're struggling, and there's too much comparison out there. A lot of women are looking at other women thinking they've got it all, they've got it figured out. I've had people ask me that before, like, how do you do it all? And I'm like, there's no way I do it all. And there's no way it's a mess. It's
Yeah,
not all
real
put
talk.
together. And so moms are awesome. And
Okay.
my husband is the shout out that he doesn't make me have that mom guilt. He makes me feel loved and supported and that I can do anything I want to do.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Uh, Like, continue on that because now we're on the last and final portion of your feature of the Coach V hot seat. I am going to simply say a phrase or a word, and then you just respond off the cuff, just in terms of what's on top of mind. This whole mom guilt thing, and so I feel like I'm going to create a whole nother focal point for my business to have what's called dad guilt too, right?
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
because I feel totally accountable to have the groceries bought on the days that my wife works, because she works every other weekend, and I can do it. So I feel accountable to that. The laundry, helping the kids clean their room and sort their rooms. I mean, as you know, and as we all know as parents, it's like you stay out of your kid's room for 3 days, you know what you're going to expect when you
Ooh.
go and see that room. Oh my gosh. So I do feel highly accountable to that. And then even more
Yeah.
now than ever, it's like usually my wife only cared about the Christmas decorations, but I care about that now. But just talk about from your perspective, this whole thing, mom guilt, as a professional who has achieved your goals and you've known who you are, and when you didn't, you figured it out and you took risk, that how mom guilt is real, and how to maybe remedy that.
Well, I think that men's brains are different, like they're
Real
compartmentalized,
talk. Real
and
talk.
ours
Yeah.
are more, and I think like some people have more of like male characteristics, or this is very general speaking, right?
Yes, sir.
And
Oh,
I
yeah.
have
Yes,
I
exactly.
have more of a dominant characteristic. I mean, even though my heart, like I cry and like got female characteristics, but I have some dominant characteristics too that also come across. What's interesting, I think, like when a female is strong and powerful, it sounds different than coming from a man.
Real
And
talk.
that's where
Yep.
that like that there's I've grown up very privileged, like not very much, challenge, but I've felt it before where I think I would have been treated differently if I was a man.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fascinating, and we've got some work to do. We've made some work, and we got more work to do. It's just an awareness piece. It's just like we all don't even, it's a bias that we don't even know we're doing sometimes with race or gender and or sexual orientation, all of it. Like we just got learning to do and work. So it's nobody's fault. We're just all learning. um but my brain never, once I became a mother of Spencer and Emma, my brain is on them all the time.
Real
Like
talk.
whether I'm like even
Real
thinking about
talk.
it or not, like it's just not as high functioning as it used to be. Especially Emma, for some reason. I think because she's like still soft and chunky, and I just want to go home and like, oh, I can't handle it. It's so awesome.
Right.
And so I think like and when they were little and I was nursing, that's a part-time job. Like feeding a baby is, I calculated it, it's 20 hours. So I was selling my team was selling 150 homes, and I was nursing a baby at the same time. And I owned another business. Like I almost lost my marriage. I almost lost my health. Like it was like just pulled in too many directions. And I see a lot of women doing that because they think other women are doing it all, and they realize that they've got to ask for help. And I'm a huge proponent in leverage. And it even sounds sometimes silly that I've got people or systems doing things for me, but I cannot my best be the best mother and the best wife and the best CEO unless I've got a lot of leverage to do all
Yeah,
the things that we do.
that's right.
So it's like I'm always thinking, what's the system that can go behind this to make this easier and better? Or what's the person that can go behind it and employ that person, maybe change their life too? And so I find people that are better at doing things than me at home and at work. So I'm just like a highly leveraged person. And I think that a lot of moms don't, they think that they're to just do it all, including be like the boss at work and the boss at home. And they need help, they need to hire help.
Mm-hmm.
If they
Mm-hmm.
can afford it, that extra. So what Keller told me this week is if you can just set aside enough money that if everything goes to crap, like everything goes away, you have enough money to survive for a long period of time, then take every other dollar after that, that's profit, and just put it towards an appreciating asset, real estate, like a cash flowing appreciating asset, preferably real estate, or
Mm-hmm.
put it towards a person. And he said that those two ways are what builds wealth the best and security. And the person is going to give us a better return, a talented person, than even the appreciating asset.
Yeah,
Not
very
interesting?
good. Yeah, that is interesting, and it's just some real talk. And not because Christina or I even say so. This is just what life, leadership, and business tells us all. But yet we're just so distracted by the stuff that doesn't really matter, that we can't focus on the stuff that can bring major value and progress in our lives. In that, just a comment from me that I think you're absolutely correct on that, in terms of the key to not just success. So the way it is that I approach success with my clients and my corporate companies that I work with is, to be successful is mainly a handful of things that better involve effectiveness and efficiency, replicable steps, and that create replicable outcomes, right? Because in this demanding world where time is something that we cannot create, effectiveness and efficiency and the willingness to do so, but it does take a lot of awareness, because most of us will just do what's the default is, well, instead of having this person do it for me because they don't really know and they always mess up, I'll just do it myself. Right? And that doesn't make you more effective and efficient. It is the training, the hiring, orientation, training, and constant training and communication on the standards and expectations that really makes all of us effective and efficient. Now, we now start to create what's called daily habits, activities, routines, and automated tasks that creates major flow in our lives. So that's right on. What are the challenges? Let's start in your industry, and we only have about a minute for this. What are the challenges for you in your industry, and what do you foresee being the way that Keller Williams, your company, and the rest of real estate better be ready for this? What is that?
Like, there's a incredible market appreciation that's happened the last 11 years, the longest market appreciation of all time. And there's also less transactions and more realtors. So when markets go up, realtor count goes up. Like, you notice everyone gets their real estate license when the market's good. And I just can't wait for a market shift, because usually agents go away. And not that I'm like hoping anyone fails, but there's just, the average realtor sells 3 homes a year. So that's really lowering the bar for our consumers, hiring people that don't have experience. And there's just not enough transactions for all the realtors. It's too easy to get in. You can do like a 2-week course and you're in. And then there's like a 10% like pension rate. It's just easy in, easy out. And so I think that's the biggest challenge, is even being a successful realtor when there's a lot of competition. And then there's this big, chase downward into the market. And there's also a technology situation happening. When technology gets good enough to serve our clients and make their life better and my life better, selling real estate is going to become cheaper. The technology hasn't made anything easier yet. Like, it really hasn't made the real estate transaction easier yet. It's made the search process a little bit better. Like Zillow has made searching better.
Just that. That's all it's really made. Even for me as a consumer, just looking at properties, I could see them, but you still got to go through the whole process to buy it.
Yeah. And then now there's fear. With the pandemic, there's major fear happening with the way people are acting. They're acting like, I've had people in the last 2 years, though, it's a full-time counseling position, and it takes a lot of skill and no hard feelings from me. I can handle the crying and the anger and all the fear and all the stuff that's happening right now in people's brains, but it takes a lot. It's no easier today than it was 10 years ago. Technology has not improved this business yet. And then there's just the challenges. There's too many realtors.
Yeah. And man, in my neighborhood of the 916, there's no inventory. So there's an influx of need for housing. There's an influx of people coming in because it's one of the more affordable markets in Northern California. And then there's more realtors, but there's not any more houses. So the appreciation in the market value for those of us that own multiple properties is great, right? Yeah.
But then how do you,
Yeah.
And you know why? There's low inventory because of the demand, but it's also, this has been a long time coming. In the Great Recession, we lost builders, we lost contractors that never came back. So we've been going for 10 years with not enough building happening.
Yeah, I
as they
think you're,
all went
oh my
away.
goodness, you are right on that. Here in California, I think the two main things is that our ability to capture and retain water in our
Hmm.
state. Oh, but I'm not just, Idaho needs to do the same thing, right? I think that's a major need for the society, the civil society in general. And then the other thing is like, we're not building. We have all
Hmm.
these things that protect lands all over the place. And I get why and all that. And I don't want to get into that debate, but it's like, well, we need government institutions to increase how it is that we build and make it something that's affordable in California and anywhere else in the world so that we can build,
Yeah.
right? And make cheaper housing. And I'm not saying I know what the answers is, but I think that we're focused on so many different things as a people and as a country. I'm like, hey, man, we better start focusing back. When we saw this last drought, right, Christina?
Yeah.
It's like water and housing. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, from
And
this
toilet
keynote
paper, but
speaker
we
here,
figured
this
that out.
national
Yeah.
keynote, I'm just saying. Well, Christina, thank you so much for coming on the show. Um, uh, and even though we're over, the boys will produce this to make sure it'll still go, even though we're over. I want to give you an opportunity just to talk. So what's your final on being on the Coach V show? Any final and parting words? And then we will close off the show. Christina, thanks for coming on.
Thank you. You're awesome. You're the best. Um, I just learned this recently. Know who you are. Like really know who you are. And when we know who we are and we're just good with it, it doesn't matter what happens. We can still be
Mm,
happy. It's also our filter in making decisions. So I thought I knew who I was, but then I started paying attention and I realized I was still making decisions based on what people think of me.
mm,
I thought I was past that. Like almost 40 now. I don't care what people think of. I don't care what people think of me. But I realized I was watching myself. I was watching myself make decisions based on what people think. And when we know who we are, we don't care about that anymore. And we can make decisions faster and that are better for ourselves and our family.
very good. Thank you again, Christina, for coming on the show. And to everybody that's watching, you can connect with Christina. She's on Facebook and also Instagram at Christina Moore Ward. And then you can connect with her on her on her website at ChristinaCompany.com. You know, for both Christina and I, it is not just for the sake of achieving success that we ask that you consider what it is that we are talking about that has worked in our life, leadership, and business, but really for the sake of being your best. In doing
Mm-hmm.
so, you realize the best of your abilities and that everything that you dream and work for can be achieved. This is how Christina Moore Ward and your boy, Coach V, lives, all about faith and family. Grateful for God's amazing grace. Until next time, thank you for tuning in to the Coach V Show, broadcast from Hollywood, California's Dash Radio Studios, powered by Island City Media Group, where the beach meets the streets, on right here on the Coach V Show, every Mana Motivation Monday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, where iron sharpens iron. Together, we rise. From Christina, your boy, Coach V. Until next time, peace.